Hello and welcome to my series, The Pain and Pleasure of Living a Life on Purpose. Today I have with me the lovely Trish Rock from Canberra. Now she's an energy intuitive and has had many painful experiences. In fact, we were just having a laugh before we went on there about how grateful she is for the 7 years of pure pain that actually, the experiences that she had to actually bring the lessons to her and help her connect the dots of all her life and bring her to a place where actually now everything feels aligned. Good morning, Trish. How are you?
I'm very well. Good morning, Philippa.
Yeah, perhaps you could enlighten the listeners as to the type of blocks that you had when you say you were grateful for them. I know you were talking about sort of love and relationships and life struggles, but 7 years is a long time. How did you work your way through them?
Yeah, so 2009 I decided to leave my former life behind because I thought everybody around me was making me unhappy and I'd had enough. So I had enough of that pain, so I thought I'm just going to move away from it, right? So I did that and I felt okay for a little while. But as I said to you earlier, what I realised was, after about a year, when there's a room with only you in it, there's nobody to blame for your unhappiness or for anything, really. It's just you and your thoughts. And that's when I realised that it was up to me to make myself happy. And I couldn't rely on anybody else to do that. And by actually relying on other people and putting that pressure on other people to keep you happy, it makes everybody miserable. So I learned a very important relationship lesson there. But then my pain in money started. So I was experimenting with new businesses because I thought my previous business was also making me unhappy. So I started experimenting in some new businesses, and the finances weren't coming, and I ended up really with nothing, and it just wasn't flowing in. So it was a very difficult few years. Which I've now turned around because that's a belief as well. So I found out a big lesson from the universe. But yes, I think the biggest thing is to know that blaming anything outside of ourselves for anything is absolutely pointless.
Yeah,
absolutely pointless. Yeah.
And so you, the energy. When you're going through, you're trying all these things and putting a lot of energy into it and there's no reward for it. And so a lot of frustration. And so over time you recognized it was for yourself, but how did you turn it round?
Yeah, that is the frustration. So one of the really important things is to have that big vision and to keep reminding yourself of it. So the pain for me sometimes of moving forward was far less than the pain of staying where I was.
That's a really important lesson, it's because some people find struggle and stepping outside the comfort zone, and there's that push point, isn't there? It's like the tipping point as such. Yeah.
Definitely. It's like, well, you know what, Trish, you don't have to step there and push yourself over there. You can stay right where you are. No one's forcing you. But the pain of where I was killing my soul. So I had the choice, stay there or go there. And I think we all have that choice. And if I chose to go here, I had to work through whatever I needed to work through to get there. So it's definitely, you need that bigger vision. But, for some people, and I think that's probably the same for me, they do have to feel the overwhelming pain and discomfort of where they are before they will move forward. And that takes a lot of courage, that first step. And you really need to be surrounded by really supportive people, but you also have to know within yourself that there's more for you.
Yeah.
That you're here for more than what you're doing right now.
And it's really hard in this linear world, isn't it, to do something out of the ordinary. You know, to be an energy intuitive is not something that people would recommend, you know, leaving high school sort of thing, that you would do. And it's a bit like acting or singing, you know. It's like, okay, it might be something that you love doing, but, you know, be realistic, darling. You know, you're not gonna make any money out of it, sort of thing. So how did you settle that? You know, if you were talking about financial struggles and things, how did you consciously integrate that aspect of your work?
Yeah, it took me a few years before I finally kind of stood up, and it's only been, you know, in the last 18 months really that I finally stood up and said, you know what, this is what I'm doing and I'm going to own it. But I've always done it in the background.
Yeah.
And no matter what business I was working in or even what job I was doing, I've always lifted people's energy and shine the light for people to show them there's another way. So I've always kind of done that in the background, but I'm really owning it now. And but you're right. It's not something that your parents would say, you know, go do. They say go get a real job.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting though. As soon as you own something, whether it's being an intuitive or whether it's being a massage therapist or whether it's being a mechanic, as soon as you own who you are and what you do, people come flooding in who also do that. It's really interesting how that energy works. So as soon as you can own that and you've got that energy, more people who do that come in. So you really feel surrounded by a supporting group of people. So for instance, here in Canberra, I didn't even realise there was a whole psychic community here in Canberra, right? Okay. Until I stood up and owned what I was doing, and all of a sudden this whole door opened up in Canberra. It's like, wow, there's a massive community of people here who are card readers, mediums, psychics, all sorts of things. It's massive. And there's spiritual churches, you know, the people who run all the psychic fairs, they're based here in Canberra. So as soon as you own something energetically, it opens up to you. So I think that might be a fear for a lot of people, that they'll, okay, you know what, I'm really going to own who I am now, and I'm going to acknowledge that I'm going to be alone. And that's a kind of a fear, but you're never alone. People start coming out of the woodwork to support you. Yeah. And
it's like there's no, you're born to be extraordinary, not just ordinary. That's one big thing. And you were also talking about having a vision. And I know for myself and some of my clients, it's like, well, it's the purpose everybody talks about, but really, for me and with these interviews, is actually to help people recognize that next step. You don't have to know your massive, great big vision for 10 years time. It's just sitting in that moment and recognizing, okay, this actually feels really good to me, and I'm going to take the next step and go on that. So you might not actually have an identity, but it's recognizing the concept behind it. And you spoke earlier about working in having your own nail salon, and actually the interaction with your clients and being able to put them at ease and things like that. So who would have thought nearly 30 years ago that the gifts and talents in that helped you where you are now? And for me, that's a really important thing for people to dig deep and find those gifts that we actually take for granted, isn't it?
Everything fits in. It's amazing. Everything just really fits into place easily. And you know, I was with a client the other day who is having a fear about stepping into who she is, and you know, something that she said to me was, because I had a message from the guides that there was something that she had done that didn't work, and now she was scared of moving forward in case it didn't work again. And she went, oh, that's right. she said, I did this course once in business and I didn't like it, so I stopped it. And that's left a feeling of, you know, failure within her. But then when I explained to her that all those little pieces fit together, and I said to her, you know, you're obviously meant to be doing your own business because you wanted to do a course in it. And so that's perfect. I mean, you know, there's not, I said to her, in your office at the moment, there would be probably maybe one, if any, people who are interested in having their own business.
Yep.
But you obviously are. So all these pieces are fitting together because it's something that you love doing. So I think when you can see everything as a piece rather than a failure, it really helps. And I've seen everything, as we were saying before. I've been in the nail industry. I'm a web designer. I'm an app developer. I've you know, done online coaching for the nail industry. So I've kind of had a few hats before I've stood up and claimed who I am. But all of those things I've learned are now coming together, and I can draw on all of them. And for me, it's an advantage because there's so many people in the spiritual world who aren't technical and really don't know a lot about business, and it really thwarts their progress because they're so talented, but they don't know the next step of getting out there. And I've actually learned all of those skills. So I feel really blessed, and I changed my beliefs from thinking those businesses were all failures to knowing that they were just the next step. They were the next step to where I was going. And even now, I mean, I have my big vision of where I want to be, but nothing specific, but how I'm going to feel when I'm there.
Yeah.
But I don't know the exact path. Who knows? You might be talking to me in a year's time and I might have done a total
About time, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm still on the same path to where I'm going to be feeling. So I think the big vision needs to be how you're going to feel showing up in life every day. How do you want to feel? And everything is kind of needs to go there. Is this going to make me feel good? No. Okay, don't do it. Is that going to make me feel good and bring me joy? Yes, go that way, even if it's scary.
And the different energy, I just had it, you know, all the different attributes that you have learned over, and skills you've learned over the time, they are all aligned with various aspects of the chakra system as well, aren't they? And so for you, it's like with the spiritual world, they're very much in the higher realms, whereas there's a lot of people are in the lower realms, and it's really about connecting the two and making that energy flow.
Definitely. So yes, so I used to be all in the top chakras: intuitive, opening my heart, my in my third eye, my crown, and my communication. And that was great at the time because, you know, especially when I was expressing myself, you know, I learned all sorts of things, how to do podcasting, all the online stuff that I do because I was expressing myself. So that's been really good. But when the money wasn't coming in, that's when I discovered the lower chakras of the solar plexus, sacral and root chakra is all about being here in this physical life. And as a human, we need money, right? It's not an evil thing that, oh no, I can just survive on spirit. Yeah, I mean, we can all be spiritual, but we need money to survive here in this physical life as a human. So the bottom chakras are all about taking action, your next action step that's going to bring in an income stream, the confidence to do that, the self-empowerment, and also the balance in emotions and the balance in relationships. And that was a big one for me. I was so emotional about everything and I was reacting to things. Now I have emotional stability, and if I'm feeling emotional, I don't do anything. I tap into the why I'm feeling that way, and then I act from a more solid place rather than reacting. And that's been a really big lesson for me. And as far as getting the money flow going, yes, you really need to come from that that physical kind of grounded place and take action. What's my next step to bring some money in? I mean, you have to think like that, otherwise the money's not going to just show up.
Absolutely, absolutely. And there's a couple of points that you make about the relationship, and it's all the work is really about forming a deep relationship with yourself, isn't it?
Oh, everything. Everything is about it. Yeah, because one thing I discovered after I stopped blaming everyone around me for how I was feeling and my circumstances, I realized it was all up to me. But one thing that I really do know for sure now is that everybody who shows up for me is a reflection of who I currently am. And so just when I think that I've got something all sorted out, someone will show up and rub up against me, and I'm like, okay, I haven't got that all figured out yet. Maybe I need to be more loving towards myself, or maybe I need to be more respectful towards myself. Whatever someone is making me feel, or whatever I feel, and they're not making me, whatever I feel when I come up against someone who's, ruffling my feathers, so to speak, that's something I need to look at within. And that just changed everything for me. It's like, oh, thank you for coming and having that argument with me, because it's brought something up within myself that I can change now. And then those people don't show up anymore. It's interesting.
Yes, I often find myself, going away from a meeting with a client and thinking, okay, so it might be an idea if you listen to your own words of wisdom and apply some that to yourself.
We need to read our own books, Philippa.
Absolutely. And talking of books, I'm writing my book, and you're writing a book as well at the moment. And it's,
I am.
The process there, I think for me, one of the big things is the structure side of things. And as time goes on, it's really about, I didn't realize I was such a perfectionist, but it's actually just the feeling that you were talking about. It's making that real connection to what you're writing and the purpose behind it. And I know to begin with, it was about a validation side of things. It is a vehicle for my business, but it's also to add value to other people's lives. And that's the real purpose behind what I'm doing. And I guess the same for you, yeah?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And look, it is a business tool. Books are a business tool. It gets you in front of people, and it kind of gets you out there. Like, it's a bigger business card than just a little card. It's like, hey, I've got a book, right? But ultimately it is about helping people. And one thing one of my mentors taught me many years ago was, everything you do, ask yourself, what's the point? Yep. What's the point of writing that? What's the point of doing that? What's the point of putting that out? And it's been so valuable to me, because sometimes I would just put things out for a bit of ego satisfaction or for attention, and there was no point, right? Really. So now every time I put something up or do something, I say, right, what's the point of this? The point is to show somebody such and such, right? And then it has a different energy around it. So definitely with the books, you want someone to read your book and be totally inspired and know that they can also move through that pain, and they can be themselves and they can shine just like you have and just like I do. And so that's the point of the books. It can get tricky though when we're perfectionists, because we want to kind of include everything, and then we get stuck and do nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds familiar.
So I think one of the things with my books, and I know you've the same process, is do the title, do the chapters, and then fill it in, and don't sway from that, because then anything else that comes along can be in the next one.
Yes, I think it's actually, for me, is the depth of it, because I've had the structure, the title and everything for like 7 years, but it's the depth of information that I put in each one, and it's really just keeping it on an easy level for people to relate to, rather than getting too deep, because I can do the deep stuff in another book, as you say. Yeah.
Oh, you certainly can, and you could also do some of the deeper stuff in blogs, I guess, and send people to there. But I mean, I know when I'm reading a book, I like to be able to read it. If it's too heavy for me, I won't read it. So I think it's kind of a case of who's your audience going to be, and do they like reading that more in-depth stuff. I'm reading Bruce Lipton's Biology of Beliefs at the moment. It's fascinating. Have you read that?
Yes. No, I've not read that one. What was the one he did afterwards? Evolution.
Oh, I don't know. I must get that one.
Yeah, that was really good. But again, that's quite deep.
It's very heavy reading, yes.
So that one's got highlights all over it, sort of thing. But he's such a fascinating man, and his video blogs and things, he makes it very easy for people to relate to, because he's into STEM biology and all the rest of it, and epigenetics and quantum physics, which is very deep.
It really is, yeah. But yeah, people kind of want to know, and I know when I was going through, and you'd be the same, when I was going through my worst times, I didn't have the energy or the impulse or the interest in reading anything heavy. I wanted a quick, what can I do right now to make myself feel better? What can I do right now to change this? And I guess that's something I like about my work. I mean, I can write in-depth things, but even like with my cards that I've got online now, they're really quick and they're easy, and it's I want a message right now, there it is. And that's kind of how I like to work, and I know that I would be attracting that audience as well. So so the kind of format that would be in my book would be a chapter explaining some growth, and then maybe some points or a worksheet, so that if people want to go a bit more in depth, they can do that. But I like things to be simple, easy. I don't like reading a lot. It's like, I can do that, great. And that's why working with the chakras, it's really good, because there's so many practical tips. Right, you need to feel grounded. Go out, stand on the ground, sway a little bit. You'll feel better.
I mean, one of the things you were talking there about, now it's got the creative side of things, doing your with your cards. That was it. Yes, come on, brain. When you were thinking of them, we go through all these blocks, and it's, well, I can't do that because of this, and I can't do that because of that. But the more you do, and then you realise that you had all these extraordinary talents, technology side. So whilst you couldn't necessarily physically manifest them in a card form that we're all used to, you could put them online, and voila. Such a simple solution, but actually finding that simple solution can be such a process, and you need someone outside of yourself to shine a light on what is actually underneath our noses, because that's usually where it is. But we're so caught up in the trap of I can't. Can't see the wood for the trees, really, can we?
And sometimes it's the processes and the normal timeline of things of society tells us, oh, you can't do this until you've done that, and this is the process, this is the way. And I'm a bit of a rule breaker, so I'm finding my own way.
Yeah, it's also about getting out of our own way, though, isn't it?
We've got to get out of our own way, and that's sometimes I think that's the most difficult thing. It's like, well, what, I'm not doing it like everybody has told me to do it. I'm doing it the way I feel is right for me right now. And that took very many years for me to own that, because I went along on that tide of do it this way, do it this way, do it this way. And you know what? It wasn't working for me, Philippa. Yeah. And it wasn't working for me. It works for other people. And, my way isn't going to work for everybody.
No.
So you really have to not only own who you are and who you are in here, but you have to own how you want to do it.
I think you mentioned earlier about trusting, because
Mm.
So important to recognize. And I mean, I've noticed it myself. There have been times when you're looking to the outside world, and as you say, well, I ought to be doing X, Y, and Z, and everybody else is doing X, Y, and Z, and that creates that competition, makes you feel less than. And it's really being in that space, looking at the gifts that you have, and thinking and trusting, listening to your feelings, connecting with yourself as to what's the next step. You might not know the big thing, but what's the next step? And actually having the courage to take it all, to ask someone like yourself for help, because you have an amazing selection of tools. I think the first thing I really noticed was your candles that you created in the chakra colors. They were beautiful. Well, they still are beautiful. And you've got some artwork behind you there, and that's a fairly recent thing, isn't it? Creating the mandalas. Can you tell us a bit more about how that came about?
Yeah, well, that was interesting. So the ones behind me, that kind of that helps me relax, believe it or not. And it was interesting because in school, I didn't think that I was any good at artwork, and I actually studied to go into the fashion industry as a designer. But in the last minute, when I was putting my application together to go to the big college, I couldn't draw what I needed to draw. So since then, I've always felt a failure at drawing, right? Anyway, just a little while ago, I started doing these mandalas, and I thought, wow, and people started noticing them. And another inspiration from Spirit, I'm not sure who I was talking to, but they were doing something with people's energy and relating it somehow. And I thought, you know what? I could do that into a drawing. Why don't I put people's energy and their purpose into a drawing? So, I know how it came about. I was, I saw a pattern in a lot of the people I was reading for and helping with in my intuitive sessions. Yeah. and also when I was healing them with the Reiki healing, there's always a theme. Everyone's got a theme in their life. And my theme in my life is love, okay, love of self. So everything, all the pain and all the lessons I've learned over my entire life, especially the last 7 years, has been about my self-worth and loving myself. Yeah. And everybody has a different word. Some people have freedom. Some people have that work is their biggest thing. So whatever your biggest pain in life has been, is giving you your life word. It's what you're learning, you always teach, right? That's how it works. So that's how it came about. And I thought, why don't I put people's life word into a mandala? Right? It sounded logical. So I did a couple for my friends, and they just really flowed. They were so beautiful, and I channel it. So I channel all the drawings and the colors, and the colors represent the chakra energy of that person. It's really interesting how it all comes together. So that's how they started, and they're great fun. So I've done a family one now too. That was good.
It's something you can't teach, is it? I mean, I know I do pastel portraits. I'll turn this around. Maybe you can see. There's a close-up one of my grandmother. Oh, can you see?
How beautiful.
Yeah, in that one. Can you see?
Yes, that's beautiful.
Well, it's really interesting because I took it from a black and white photo, and she was quite austere, and these colours came out, because I don't do flesh colours. I do the colours, the energy of the person, and it was soft pinks and blues, and she was talking to me through her eyes, sort of thing, and it was like, wow, where did that come from? And you can't teach that kind of thing, and that's the beauty. You can see so much deeper into somebody with your work, and that's what we need to see above and beyond what the world portrays us as our role, sort of thing. And that's people pigeonhole themselves, and it's actually recognizing we're so much bigger than anything that we can describe about ourselves. We immediately go into what your age is, where you live, and what role you've got in life, but actually that role is so much deeper, isn't it?
Yeah, who are you really? Who
Yes.
are you? Your essence. Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's well, I found that the people that I've worked with and giving them a life word, connecting them with that life word, it means that especially, well, I'll do it in my case. So my life word is love. So any bump in the road I come up against now, I know that it's to show me an even deeper love of myself. So it kind of gives you another way of feeling peace and feeling calm. And yeah, and a really beautiful one, a friend of mine, her life word is freedom and discipline, which is two totally opposite things.
Absolutely, yeah.
But for her to have freedom in her life, she had to be really disciplined with her money.
Yes. Yeah.
Because freedom for her is to be financially secure and then have the life that she is inviting in, right? So she had to be really disciplined with her money to have that security so that she could then experience the freedom. So in the mandala that I built for her, it was kind of very disciplined lines, but with a freedom of it underneath of the energy. So yeah, really, really interesting. But when we were talking about it, it kind of something clicked in her and she went, ah. And so she could see the process she's been living, learning all those disciplines so she could have the freedom. So it really helps.
And again, I think it's really important when you're talking about the polarities, because that is one of the laws of the universe. And rather than seeing them as good and bad, for me, it's high and low energy. And it's like we need to be on different parts of that spectrum in order to recognize something in ourselves. And so that's why I don't see them as positive and negative. They're high and low.
Definitely. There's no right or wrong, but you need those contrasts to move forward. And that's why we're here in this human form, is to experience things that are not love energy so that we can then move more towards who we truly are. And, if that fear wasn't there, we wouldn't be growing.
That's true. So in the pain that you've experienced, what pleasure are you experiencing now because of it?
Well, it's interesting. A lot of the struggle and the lack, I had a real lack mentality. But now even if I don't have any money right now, I can still feel abundant. So that's the pleasure.
Yeah.
And even if I don't have a relationship right now, I still feel the love and the joy of that. So what I've learned over the years is that even in my worst times when I was really, really struggling, I remember there was a week there where, I really only had enough money left to make sure my dogs had some food, and I was kind of living on grapes and water and stuff. I thought, oh, this is really bad. But I was being out in social media, people thought I was successful, but inside I was just dying. I thought, what is this? But I know now, even in those moments, I could have felt abundant if I wanted to. If I chose to, I could have. And it was my choice to feel lack. And because I was feeling lack, the world showed up exactly like that. But I could have felt abundant in that time because, I had beautiful things outside I could have looked at. I had friends that were really supportive. I had my dogs. I had a roof. I had a bed. I had heat. I really was very abundant in so many ways. But the only thing I was focusing on was lack of money. So the pleasure for me now is to I have money now, but I don't focus on that. The pleasure I have now is the little game I play with myself every day of, well, how can I feel joy right now?
So it's a game, and it's brought out the fun side of things, really, rather than the serious side of things, and that's in your creative stuff. So what would you tell your childhood self now? What advice would you give her?
I would tell her that she's very worthy of everything, and yeah, I'm not sure of the right words, but yeah, I think I would tell her that she has a voice and that she's very lovable and loved and worthy, and to stand in who she is. And you know, we kind of know that when we're two. And then it all changes, it all goes. So yeah, definitely all of those really, really lovely things. And of course, if you tell your children that they're beautiful and all those good things all the time, they get a little bit disillusioned and think there's no fear. But you know, you have to know that no matter what happens, that you are worthy and beautiful, and don't take anything personally. That's probably a good sentence.
Oh, and it's the unconditional love, isn't it? And it's so easy with your own children and things to give that unconditional love, but actually it's a lesson to learn it for ourselves and treat ourselves like our own best friend.
Well, that's what and with the unconditional love, I never really used to understand that, but now I understand it, that you can love without the condition, and that's with everything. I can love who I am right now without any condition, and I can love another person without them having to do something or say something, so there's no condition. And I never really used to understand the unconditional love, but I can be happy now no matter who's around me, because I can be happy without any particular condition. They don't have to say anything or do anything or be anything. And that's a really big lesson. So that would be beautiful for all children to know that they can be happy and love who they are without any external conditions. Yeah. That's unconditional. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. What a lovely way to finish.
Oh.
And bring out the inner child in all of us. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, definitely. Yes. The creative, confident, loving. Yeah, I can do that kind of child. We all need to be that. Yeah.
And that's what I see a lot of in yourself. You're a very vibrant lady and fun.
Oh.
And, thank you very much for your time today, Trish. It's been
Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye-bye.